be having a really interesting conversation here. Um, I'll start by introducing shortly the concept of self-deception. So some people might be thinking, uh, how would self-deception be even possible if sort of to deceive you have to know the truth in the first place. So how can you know and not know? And therefore, how can you deceive yourself? Um, to answer this shortly is that self-deception is possible because um, we are more than our conscious experience in a sort of way that we rationally discover ourselves. We have much more experience, feelings, and even thoughts that are happening at unconscious level, which we're not aware of, which, however, constitutes us. But not only we are not aware of it, we also can choose not to be aware of it. We can intentionally ignore what we perceive unconsciously. We can intentionally ignore our experience. We can intentionally choose not to consider our feelings. We even more can not only um, not consider, we can assign to them uh, the meaning that we want to, like the comforting meaning, rather than the actual one. We can misinterpret intentionally what we feel and experience if it provides us the sort of a benefit, if it comforts us, right? Um, a bitter truth is better than a sweet lie can be only um, what um, a rationally correct phrase, but personally can um, be uh, what people can fall shortly from it, right? They can choose comforting lies, comforting ignorance instead of uncomfortable and bitter truths. So this is basically the uh, the reason. Uh, Lies have purpose. This is very important. Deception serves the adaptive purpose. You use it for something. It's not random. It's not just evil or morally wrong. Um, you can claim that it's morally wrong, but it's not just that. It also serves a certain purpose. That's why you use it in the first place. You don't use it randomly. You lie with a purpose. Many lies are adaptive. They are self-protective. Uh, they are self-preserving. They are benefit-bringing. Okay, and so self-inflicting lies are similar. And if you struggle to think about the cases of self-deception, I would bring you the case of being avoidant with uncomfortable truths. Let's say in relationships, right? You had a conflict with your partner, and you are ignorant of your part in the conflict. You're ignorant of where you are wrong, and you like experience that, well, you are wrong somewhere. You have your own motives for being angry, but some of these motives are selfish, let's say, and you kind of understand it, but you choose to ignore it intentionally and not bringing it into conscious awareness, right? You choose to ignore it. So this could be the form of self-deception. Many forms of self-deception are self-enhancement. Um, it's when you view yourself more better than you actually are. Let's say narcissists would uh, have a more positive view of themselves, which the they would rate themselves higher than they actually perform, which is kind of not beneficial for you even, because well, you need to be accurate as well to correct your errors and grow and improve your performance. You need to see clearly where you are wrong and lacking. So self deception is also damaging, right? But it also could be beneficial. Why? That's why you could do it. For this reason, narcissists can be extra confident people, and these can bring them the benefit of, let's say, uh, looking um, as high performers, or um, being better in dealing better with confrontations, or being more assertive to ensure their gain. So it can benefit them in different ways, but it also damages them because, well, they have this self-enhanced image which is not accurate, right? And even if they are confident in their high performance, and it doesn't, and if their confidence doesn't mean their actual high performance, well, then it's no good for them, because sooner or later they would realize, hopefully even, that they are lacking in performance, and well, the truth would reveal itself. They are underperform, comparing to their um, uh, view of their performance. So, but it could, maybe they would be ignorant enough not to notice these truths, and it would just be influencing the outcome uh, that they bring from their actual performance. They would always think that they do better while bringing the moderate outcome, let's say. So there is a there are disadvantages to self-deception, and there are even bigger disadvantages, because if you can't be honest with yourself, then it makes it harder for you to be honest with others. And if you can't be honest with others, then others don't have the ground to trust you, because other people can see better the um what the things you fail to see for yourself. Especially if there are many people, they could see better the truths that you choose to ignore. And so um if other people see that uh you kind of deceptive with yourself, and you don't presenting to them what they see you doing, then they wouldn't have foundation to trust you. And you wouldn't even realize that. You would think, well, why these people are not open with me? Why they don't take my words at their value? Uh, but the reason for that could be because they can see what you fail to see, and they uh, understand that you are deceptive. And if you intentionally choose to ignore these uh, experienced truths, um, then, well, what does it says about you, right? For these people and for you as well. So it's kind of costly. Self-deception is costly and damaging for your for the social field, relationship with people, and then for the personal growth. Now turning to the language, because language is the uh, reflection of your thinking process. And um, the majority of your uh, thinking, experiencing, and feeling um, happens at unconscious level. A good way to um, ensure that you're not deceiving yourself, you're not implementing yourself uh, or the opposite, bringing yourself down, that you have an accurate measure of yourself, that you have the accurate standpoint, is to be more self aware, to be sensitive to self awareness, and to be highly reflective, to see error and correct them. Because, we are all self deceptive and biased in some manners, even on hormonal level. We are kind of biased by our hormones, by our moods, and etc. So we're all biased in some ways, right? And we're also all self deceptive in some ways. But the difference is that there is the kind of self-deception that comes with censorship. So it doesn't, you're not only self-deceptive, but you're self-deceptive in a manner that you don't want to look through your self-deception. You don't want to reflect on your weak points, on your blind spots that you're not seeing clearly. You just confident 100%. So this is complete like arrogance. This is the self-deception coming to the point of like uh, complete arrogance, that you think, well, I got it all, and I know everything, and I don't need anything to be added up to me. And so you don't want to reflect on your errors, and so your growth is stagnated, and it's not helpful to you, and it's not helpful to anyone else too. Um, so language. How can language be helpful for you to look through the self-deception if you want to grow and not to be ignorant and arrogant? If you want to be open to be for being challenged and seeing the errors to correct them. So, as mentioned, language is the uh, reflection of the thought, and um, therefore of your unconscious uh, experience as well, because thought and experience and feelings, they're not separated by lines, they are all kind of blended in together. We're not purely rational, we have feelings and thoughts all linked together, and majority of all of that we have on an unconscious level, and our unconsciousness leaks through the language, because we are not completely in a control of our language. Uh, we don't take too much time to um, say what we mean, and not only that, but we also not completely are aware of why do we choose the way of saying things and not the other ways. Why did we choose humor and not being serious? Why did we choose the irony? Why did we choose the indirect request, not the direct request? Why did we choose to frame this form of request in a question and not in a statement? We don't think about all of that. And what does it mean? It means that all these motives that are unconscious are um, shown in the language we used. They are the fingerprints of our unconsciousness that can be tracked and recognized. And I will be talking about some forms of the um, speech which are used with the purpose and which kind of hard for us sometimes to um, recognize. Uh, for example, the irony, or again humor, or some forms of indirectness. Why would we use them? Why not just, why irony? Why humor? Why are we choosing this way of phrasing things? So I'll start explaining it. And my reasoning will be coming from the book actually several books, but primary will be the called Principles of Pragmatics by Geoffrey Leach. And he kind of built his theory on the theory of Grice. Grice's conversational maxims. Um, so Grice basically assumed that people use conversation to cooperate. And he has put forward the maxims which serve the cooperation, successful cooperation. And this is the quality maxim, telling the truth; quantity maxim, uh, say as much as needed, not more, not less, which is something like accuracy; and then the manner, be clear, orderly, not ambiguous; and relevance, be relevant to the current purpose. So this is conversational maxims that he said, well, this helps us to be cooperative. And it helps us to be cooperative because it makes our cooperation pragmatic, making it more efficient, like making the information exchange more efficient. If you're relevant, if you're clear, if you're not ambiguous in your speech, if you're on point of the for the current purpose, then cooperation is good. Pragmatic cooperation, checkmark. And also it ensures social cooperation, which is something like I can trust you and I will know that you don't want to harm me. And so I'll try to act towards you also in a good manner. So this is a social exchange. You may maintain goodwill and minimize offense, so the other person would return you the same. So people would return you the same too. Right. And um in his book Leach kind of uh, offers that there are six politeness maxims that we use to maintain this social cooperation. It's tact, generosity, approbation, and sympathy, uh, modesty, and agreement. Right. So so we use tact to kind of balance the um, cost. Like we're think why do we use tact? uh, it seems important, right? Like be tactful, don't say like stupid thing, don't be too rude. Where is your tact, right? And the tact is basically a balance between the costs for the self, for you and the cost for other people. So you don't want to be too selfish, but you also want to still gain. And the tact is this balance where you don't have to high cost for the self, for yourself, and also don't have to high cost for others. You're not rude, you're not um, offensive. um, and then generosity is like minimizing the benefit for yourself, so you could ensure social cooperation. Okay. And sympathy, of course, you're like you being maximally empathetic, and people, if you are being empathetic, other people return you the same. um, yeah, so you also gain because they are being the same towards you. So the logic behind all of this, just explaining it shortly, would be something like actually this golden rule: treat the other person as you want to be treated. And this golden rule works in everything, in action, in language, very well. And it does so because when you actually ensure that you treat the other person as you want to be treated, oftentimes the other person does treat you in a similar way as you treat him. And so it ensures very well the social cooperation. You treat the person uh, in a good manner, and the person returns the same manner to you, because he also wants you to continue to keep on treating him this way, right? Um, and Leach in his book says that basically we use politeness and different forms of politeness in our language to ensure cooperation, to minimize the conflict between ourselves, between like people and ourselves, and to ensure the social harmony, the productive social harmony, which would also benefit us, not just any abstract social harmony, productive social harmony, which would also benefit us and other people. Um, because it's also like a trade-off. Again, I'm being truthful and safe towards you, and you return to me truthfulness and interpersonal safety, which kind of ensures my well-being. So I want it too. Right. And so um now, how does this, let's say, maxim or rule, which sounds like something like minimize the cost and maximize the benefit, plays the role in the language? And again, Leach says in his book is that, well, it plays the role but that people are trying to be uh, cooperative in their language. And a good signal for cooperation is politeness. He called it politeness principle. And he said that many forms of our interactions, uh, they are the consequences of our attempt of being cooperative, polite, you know. Uh, and um, he says that there can be actually negative and positive politeness. Not only you can be positively polite, like treat person good, be um, yeah, be polite basically. But there is also negative politeness, and negative politeness is minimizing imposition. So you basically, in your conversation, avoid pressure and avoid the conflict. So avoiding the conflict and the pressure, it's the negative politeness. And the positive politeness, of course, is maximizing the approval. So you seek connection. You kind of maximize the praise towards people. You do what people like. So negative politeness is basically like you don't do what people don't like. And positive politeness, you do what people like, you praise them. Um, Important, not overpraising, because people would start being distrustful to you and thinking that this is the you're being sarcastic, maybe this is the irony, maybe you're not truthful. So not over politeness. All right, so um irony. What is the role of irony? So Leach analyzed the irony, and this is what he offered. He says irony basically works in the principle: if you must cause offense, at least do so in a way which doesn't overly conflict with politeness or cooperation. So, principle. So basically, is that he says that irony is a way for you to say what you want to say, uh, but in a way which would not offend other people. And how are you doing it? So he says that um, you do it by um, not saying the negative, not bringing like the negative statement, which would cause the offense, which would be offensive. You use the neutral or positive statement in such a way so uh, the hearer would uh, understand what you imply by it. Like, oh, let's say um you've been watching a performance and someone asks you, oh, it was such a good performance. And then you reply, oh, yeah, the performance was just great, right? And maybe you'll laugh and smile. And so, what you did that is there, you could say that I didn't liked the performance or it was the worst performance. But this uh, answer would create the tension and the conflict. But you cooperated. You kind of still agreed with the person, and yet in the same time you uh, also delivered him a message uh, of what you actually think is that it wasn't great. Irony builds on a mutual kind of flow on understanding of each other. So you kind of expect the other person to be able to understand it in as much as you mean it. So if the other person would not be able to understand it, like he can't see in any way how this performance could be worse, maybe he wouldn't even get your irony, right? And so it wouldn't be so bad if it would be too sensitive for him, right? Maybe. And so you kind of play safe by being um, by using irony. Um, right. And um, how about the other forms? Because it's not only the irony that um, tries to maintain politeness in the conversation. So besides the irony, people use this principle to minimize dispraise of other and maximize the praise in um, under understatements or in indirectness, because indirectness basically allows you to say two things at once. It allows you to be polite but still have the underlying criticism. Um, um, and let's say this kind of sort of indirectness could be used in the questions as well, right? You uh, when instead of requesting someone to do something in a statement like open the door, you you are bringing in this request indirectly. You ensuring that um, you are being polite, so there would be social cooperation. You're saying instead, could you open the door? So it's very important to understand that people are highly sensitive towards the social cooperation, and they use all kinds of um, politeness to balance the accuracy of what they want to of the message they want to deliver to you with your response to it. So of course they want to ensure the good response from you. Um, and similarly, understatement is when speaker minimizes the force of what he's saying. So he minimizes the dispraise of other people. And it's, let's say, when um, again, the performance was so good, it might have been better. And so why you're not just stating that um, it, well, wasn't good in your opinion? You do, but you're just basically stating it in a way so the other person would understand it without you mentioning it. Why? Because you're playing safe. You try not to offend and to create tension. You try not to create tension with disagreement by um, just delivering what the your point, the opposing point, in a way so you would guess it yourself, right? So in a careful way, um, you minimize the dispraise in as much as possible. You are being vague, but you create a self distance with it. So it's adaptive kind of strategy, self protective strategy. And that's why women, I think, use more of vague language. And it's I think a partial reason why it's harder to understand them, because they just play safe with their language. That's why they would oftentimes use self-defensive or protective language, the humor, the irony, the understatement. They wouldn't be clear, but they would not be clear on purpose. And the purpose of it is to minimize the dispraise. They don't want to criticize openly because that comes with a cost of tension, of conflict, which possibly they cannot um, endure sufficiently to their benefit. Perhaps they are not strong enough to meet the opposition. They don't feel safe. They feel threatened. They feel vulnerable. And no, of course, it's like not only for women, men could absolutely use the similar language in a similar case too. But this how you can understand really how people, and why would people use the vague and indirect language, why would they use humor, why would they use irony, and they would do that because they have something to say to you, which is the criticism, which is the opposing view, which you wouldn't like, and they try to deliver it to you in a way so it would not harm them and not harm your relationships. They try to play safe, and they sacrifice the accuracy of their message. They sacrifice on truthfulness to preserve the social cooperation. Now, overstatement or hyperbole. Overstatement is basically the opposite of understatement. If understatement minimizes the conflict, overstatement maximizes the praise. It enhances positive emotion. again, following the principle of politeness that ensures social cooperation, maximize praise of others. Um, Hyperbole is exaggeration, and it strengthens emotional kind of solidarity, and that's why all this European problem where they can understand why would Americans um, be so extra exaggerated with the positive emotions. And the reason for that is the heightened desire for social cooperation that sacrifices accuracy of the message, the truthfulness of experienced reality uh, uh, for improved social cooperation, maximize praise of other, overestimate and exaggerate. So other would feel enhanced better, and so they would want to cooperate with you more. This is the strategy, um, adaptive strategy, and so this is the reason. Um, and sometimes it can go together with, let's say, indirectness, right? You're not only your can be overly uh social enhancing, kind of warming the atmosphere, but you can be vague and not on point. You can stop delivering your message clearly, communicating precisely. Why? Because you actually have, even if not conscious, you have the intentions um, to express yourself non-literally in mitigated form. Yes, you would kind of not be clear, you wouldn't say enough, you wouldn't be precise, uh, but you sacrifice these for, again, the social benefit. Okay, so people do that a lot, uh, and this is a deceptive strategy too. So you might be careful with that. And it's kind of leaks through the language a lot. If you find out people, if you see people exaggerating, if you see it as a pattern, if you see indirectness, if you see also interplay of irony, indirectness, especially if it's constant, you might as well ask the person, what is that you want to tell me that you're not telling me clearly? And better just say to me openly, because let's say I'm struggling to get the point. Because oftentimes you actually cannot understand the indirectness and the irony. This is again a popular case with the female male interactions, or even female female interactions. Like, I don't know, I just find it hard to sometimes to understand women, especially if they, and actually even each indirect person. um Yeah, and I think it's great to be able to say, look, I know you maybe not like what you maybe don't want to create the tension and the conflict. Maybe it's hard for you to express the opposing view. You don't want to be offensive, but I actually would really like to know what you think. What do you actually mean by that? Like, um, it's okay if it would sound, strange or rude. It's all right. Please just tell me, because I'm struggling to understand you. So, um, because all these strategies like irony and humor, they are considered to have a shared understanding. Like, I'm being uh, ironical, but you should get it that I'm being ironical, not like, um, No, you got it. It's not like actual. Mm, and also there are kinds of expressions, phrases we use that are called euphemism. And euphemism is basically a form also of controlled violation. It's like violation of truthfulness and clarity of all these maxims. Uh, yeah, and so it follows this rule: minimize antipathy, maximize sympathy. It allows communication of sensitive topics, um, you know, or taboos, but without it bringing emotional damage. Like, let's say when someone says he he passed away instead of he died, right? Because you kind of want to soften the language, and it's actually so good when you can track it in the language. Uh, and so the role of euphemism is to soften emotional and moral shock, right? So it kind of has also adaptive, even slightly positive, right? You don't want only to sound like rude and be offensive for the sake of accuracy and truthfulness. Like, you also want to be careful, uh, um, so euphemisms, they soften emotional and moral shock, and with that they kind of enable again discussions, conversations which wouldn't be chosen if there would be tension, if there would be emotional damage. So it enables such discussions, and it protects kind of both the speaker and listener, not to be overloaded with emotions or with guilt or with tension, you know. And so that's why also, women use a lot of these kinds of language. It's you can say, it functions as self-soothing, right? So um, it's a way of thinking about uh the wrongdoing, or about something harsh in a tolerable language. Um, right. Uh, how about hyper politeness or over formality? Um, when politeness is over applied, language kind of becomes artificial and distant. It becomes harder to trust the accuracy of it, the actual meaning of it. So the balance between politeness and truthfulness and accuracy is kind of is important, because if you sound too much, if there is too much politeness, it can sound impolite. It can sound uh, pretentious, and um, so yeah, uh, it these forms of politeness could signal defensiveness and, um, again, the intention to create this distance. And again, the I think the one to, to whom they are said, he will be adopting their accuracy. Um, right. So again, we spoke about all this forms: irony, understatement, overstatement, indirectness, euphemisms, and they all have one mechanism. It's the um, moral or an emotional balance. It's the balance between the accuracy and social cooperation, accuracy or truthfulness and politeness. Um, and these forms do involve breaking a cooperative norm to satisfy a higher social need. And oftentimes they do it um, unproductively too, when they create misunderstanding, distrust instead of enhancing social cooperation. They uh, they just damage it. So sometimes they serve the purpose really badly, and sometimes people can use them or maintain the balance because they just become insincere and too self-protective and defensive, or they are becoming too dependent on the social um, benefit, and they sacrifice the accuracy too much, and so right. uh, and you know, if you would want to use this information to address your own self deception, you could just look at your own speech, which is really helpful, or at your written text. And you could analyze, um, what do you sacrifice? What kind of language do you use? How much are you polite? And how much do you sacrifice the accuracy for it? Um, do you use tact, approbation, sympathy, generosity? Um, uh, to kind of enhance social cooperation. How much do you use it? Do you use irony, indirectness, understatement, or overstatement? And how much do you use it? What is your balance? Do you violate the accuracy and truthfulness with it or not? So, to know this will help you to increase your self awareness, and um, the self awareness will serve you as the antidote to self deception. You will see in understatement the suppression, in overstatement you could see the compensation, in indirectness you could recognize the avoidance, in euphemism you could recognize the self-protection, in irony you could recognize the double meaning, which you just can't deliver clear uh, for whatever reason. And you can be armed with the knowledge and to assess your own self-deception, as well as to address the deceptions of other people, perhaps their own self-deceptions and the deception they are used for you, which not necessarily kind of conscious maybe, but at least you can see the strategies they use, uh, and how much truthful they are with you too. So yeah, in his book, Leach recognized this kind of paradox that truth often requires socially. Um, Truth requires to be able to state socially uncomfortable untruths. That's how you can put it. And how will you deal with that? And because people do deal with that a lot by being polite, but then uh, if you're reminding yourself that bitter truth oftentimes can be uh, or is better than a sweet lie, well, maybe you would rather pick the accuracy when politeness uh, becomes deceptive instead of socially building. Um, and recognize, ask yourself, are you being honest, or are you avoidant, are you self-protective? um, because dishonesty also breaks the cooperation. This is the key to understanding why you have to deal with self-deception and over politeness, because dishonesty breaks the social cooperation. If you are even if you attempt to increase your social cooperation by being polite, when you sacrifice the truth to politeness, you break social cooperation, because there is no trust to insincere, to the dishonest person. um, Polite lie is still a lie, and people desire sincerity, and they look for dignity. So yeah, hope this video helped you to see clearer how um, you could reveal this self-deception through the language. Would it be yours or of others? And that it would serve you as the practical information. And thank you for watching.